Hi, it's me, Lil. Okay, we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to do some Lil's lights, camera, action, go stage left with Lil, and I'll be unveiling two new segments Lil's Lexicon and by request, where I'm going to share some of the strange sightings I see in New York City. If you know, you know, especially if you live here. So let's start with Lil's Lights Camera Action. Recently I saw two very good movies and one stinker. We'll start with the good movies. Guillermo del Toro has blessed us with another one of his cinematic visionary pieces. It's actually a tale as old as time. It's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it's called Frankenstein, and it's currently streaming on Netflix. This was a really good adaptation. From what I've heard, it's the closest to the Shelley text that any of the movies has ever come to. It gives us a Rashomon style of storytelling where we see the story from Victor's perspective and then from the creature's perspective. Victor is played by Oscar Isaac, always good. Perfect casting. And the creature is played surprisingly by everybody's favorite tall hottie, Jacob Elordi. Now, when I first heard about this, I was a little confused about Jacob being in it and why he would want to cover up his gorgeousness with a whole bunch of prosthetics to make him look misshapen. But I was told that in the book, Victor Frankenstein uses the most beautiful parts of each of the bodies that he finds to make his creation. So it kind of makes sense why you want to use a hottie. And Jacob rose to the occasion. He actually did very well with the part and was able to give us a lot of the emotions of the creature. We really felt for the creature. We empathized with it. The movie is shot in the classic Del Toro style with a lot of interesting cinematography and colors. One thing that I found really strange though is that the set design seemed to be clearly either inspired by or reused from the sets from another Del Toro movie, Crimson Peak. If you take a close look, you'll see this too. Overall, it's a really well done movie. Little long at over 2 hours, but if you stream it, you can kind of break it up into parts, which is what I did. I watched Victor's part first, and then the creature's part. It is still showing at some movie theaters, and it probably does look great on the big screen, but I don't think you're going to lose anything if you stream it at home. This gets a Lil's letter grade of a B+. The next fun movie I saw was Predator Badlands, which, if you can believe, it's the 7th movie in the franchise with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original 1987 film. This was a really fun ride. It was a mix of like underdog makes good slash buddy comedy movie. It's about this Yokcha, what they call the Predators, named Deck, who's trying to get his father's approval by slaying this seemingly unkillable apex predator called the Kalisk, which is on another planet called Jenna. So Deck gets there, he crash lands on the planet. What I found really impressive was the way the art directors and the visual effects people really made the planet come alive with all this different flora and fauna and creatures that I felt like I hadn't seen in any sci-fi movies before. Maybe a little bit of Star Trek movies from like the late 2000s, 2010s, but it still felt pretty unique and distinctive to me. Remember how the Predators are the bad guys in the original movies? Well, in this movie, they're the good guys, and we're totally rooting for him. We love the character of Deck, and you want him to succeed in his quest. He's joined a journey by an android called Thea, who's half of an android because she's missing her legs. So Deck just straps her on his back, and they go on this journey to try to find the Calisk. Thea is played by Elle Fanning, who I was a little skeptical of her casting because it's not like the typical historical period drama or movie where she's playing the ingenue. I didn't understand the casting, but Elle did a really good job. Not only does she play Thea, she also plays Thea's more maniacal android sister, Tessa, and she does both roles with a capable hand and really makes them the yin and yang of each other. It's a really fun movie with some great action sequences. I'm surprised they didn't open it in the summer because I could see it being a big summer blockbuster. But this is one of those movies you can just stream anytime. I give it a little letter grade of a B. The next movie I saw, which had so much promise but was pretty disappointing, was the new Osgood Perkins movie called Keeper. I should say, before Keeper started, there were some trailers for some movies that looked really good and really intense. Two of them star Amanda Seyfried. One is based on the best-selling novel called The Housemaid, which I've heard is really good, but I've been waiting for the movie version, so I'm glad it's here. It looks like a really good thriller. The other movie is called The Testament of Anne Lee, and it's supposed to be about the founder of the Shaker movement, but the trailer made it seem like some kind of crazy version of The Crucible. From what I read about it, it's also a musical, so we'll see how this goes. The third trailer I saw was for a movie called The Plague. It stars Joel Edgerton and a group of middle school kids, I guess. They're calling it a body horror Lord of the Flies. It too looked really intense. It looked like the kids are bullying this one boy, but maybe he's really bullying them. I don't know. I'll definitely be showing up for that one. Okay, so back to Keeper. It's directed by Osgood Perkins, who in 2024 brought us Long Legs, which I really liked. It wasn't the best use of Nicolas Cage, but it was still pretty unsettling and had a good female protagonist. And then he made The Monkey in 2025, and that was not as good. But I kind of blame it on bad marketing. They marketed it as a pure horror film when it was really more of a horror comedy. So I had to go see Keeper to see which side of the coin I was falling on. The other thing that drew me to this movie is because it starred one of my favorite actresses, Tatiana Maslany, from the series Orphan Black. In that show, she plays genetically identical clones who are all raised in different countries, different types of households, etc. And her performance, or performances, I should say, are so brilliant. She makes each clone so distinctive in their mannerisms, the way they speak, the way they move, everything. Like, props to the hair and makeup department, of course. But it takes an actress of great skill to be able to portray more than like 5 different characters in the same show and give them all distinct personalities. So I was really excited to see what Tatiana could bring to the horror genre. But unfortunately, I think this was just one she did for the money, because the performance was So flaccid, so uninspiring, and uninteresting. Clearly, the material was not worthy of her talents, but she didn't even do anything to try to make it come alive. She gives us the typical horror movie heroine with the labored breathing and the wide eyes. It's quite boring. So the movie is about this woman, Tatiana, who goes with her newish boyfriend to his family's secluded country house in the woods. And then, of course, everything descends into terror. There was like 4 jump scares, a little bit of unsettling imagery, and random aliens. But overall, not great. Osgood Perkins is 2 for 1. But I'll probably still see the next movie. I'll let you know if it's worth your time. This one, I can say, is not. It gets a Lil's letter grade of a C-. I should also tell you that I saw one so-so movie, which I'm kind of sad to say was the second half of Wicked. This one called Wicked for Good, which is based on the musical that's based on the book. I don't know what went wrong here, but the second part was just lifeless and not as lively as the first one. Granted, the second act of the musical is also not as strong as the first act. I mean, I guess the book is really strong, but the songs are not strong. There's only one good song in the second act. It's For Good, which, by the way, I once played at my funeral. It's a beautiful song, and it definitely makes the second half of the movie worth it. What also makes seeing this worth it is it looks beautiful on the big screen with the colors and the costumes and the production design. But the only one giving a good performance was Cynthia Erivo, whose performance was emotionally grounded, vulnerable, but at the same time powerful. You still really care about her Elphaba. Ariana is great too as Glinda, but I think she really shines the most when she's reflecting off of Cynthia. It was definitely a money grab to make this 2 movies when it could have easily been 1, and it gets a Lil's letter grade of a B. Now let's go stage left with Lil. This month I also did something I rarely ever do, and I went to see a production for the second time. The only thing that I saw multiple times was Mulholland Drive, the movie, because it took about 5 viewings to understand half of what was happening. And I also had a crush on the ticket taker at Cinema Village at the time. This time I saw 2 Broadway shows for the second time because they're both so ding-dang good. And these are the shows I would recommend to anybody coming in from out of town. If you want to see phenomenal Broadway shows at their best, see these 2 shows. The first one is Death Becomes Her, based on the camp classic from the 1990s, starring Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Bruce Willis. This is a musical version starring Megan Hilty and Jennifer Simard, who are just fabulous. They can belt the hell out of a song. They're tearing up the scenery. They take the camp from the movie, multiply it by 10, and you've got a great Broadway comedy. This time I was sitting in the orchestra, so I could finally tell that what I'd seen from the mezzanine and thought was some kind of puppetry or animatronics was actually a live human being performing stunts during the staircase scene. This dancer was so amazing, so flexible. It's really something to see. The other show I went back to see because it's so charming and feel good is Maybe Happy Ending, which tells the story of 2 helper bots living in Seoul, Korea, who go on a journey to find one of their owners who's deserted him 12 years ago. Even though this musical is about robots, which I love because I often do get to see a sci-fi musical. It's decidedly human. Darren Criss and Helen J. Shun as Oliver and Claire really make you care about these characters, and they also make them both endearing. The music is kind of Cole Porter-esque. There's a little bit of jazzy elements at times. There's not much choreography to speak of, but the set design and the costumes are really well done. The projections are excellent, not just because, like in other plays, you usually see. The thing I love most about this is it's based on an original story. It's not a jukebox musical or based on a movie from the 80s. It's original, brand new idea. And I really feel like it's one of the best musicals in this decade so far. Death Becomes Her gets a Lil's letter grade of an A minus, mostly because it really doesn't pass the Bechdel test. And Maybe Happy Ending is a solid A plus. I also skipped over to the East Side to see an off-Broadway production of La Wang, a Chinatown King Lear, written by Alex Lin, who's definitely one to watch. It's a primary stages production, and it tells the story of three Chinese siblings who are trying to counsel their grandmother through the sale of their restaurant that's trying to be bought up by developers. They put their own selfish needs first, and things get more complicated as your grandma refuses to sell the restaurant and then also starts to display signs of dementia. Performance of Wao Ching Ho as the grandmother is really well done, beautiful to see because playing somebody with dementia is not easy. We've seen a couple portrayals of people with dementia or Alzheimer's in movies like Still Alice, Away from Her, Iris. The best one, though, that I'm going to recommend as a sidebar is The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins, for which he won the Oscar for Best Actor. I was just definitely peeved at the time because I believe the Oscar should have gone to young, gifted, and black and dead Chadwick Boseman. But no, the old white guy had to win again, and he already has an Oscar. But after I saw the movie, I had to begrudgingly accept the fact that Anthony Hopkins gave a masterclass performance. It's one of the best movies you'll see about somebody living with Alzheimer's. It's really well edited, and you'll see why that's important. It also stars Olivia Colman, who makes everything great. Anyway, back to La Wang. This play sounds like kind of a downer, but it's hilarious. The ensemble cast are so funny and play off each other marvelously. Play is equal parts funny and heartbreaking. I really recommend you head over to 59 East 59th Street to see this production before it closes December 14th. Now it's time to add some words to Lil's lexicon. Some of you might remember back in 2016, maybe, where I thought for a good portion of the year that the word productful was a word, but then I finally learned that it wasn't. Bray was so sweet to make me a mug that said productful on it. This week I added another malapropism to my vocabulary, which is the word monumentous. I was talking to a friend about major life achievement of his boyfriend moving in, and I was like, what a monumentous occasion. And he was like, that's not a word. I was like, yes, it is. He was like, no, something can be momentous or monumental, but there's no such word as monumentous. And I looked it up, and he's right. Moving on to NYC WTF. Here's some tales of the wild things I saw one weekend. Okay, it's been a wild and wonderful night filled with insanity, which was just now on the train. I get on, and there's some crazy man yelling, flailing, yelling loudly. I'm like, okay, I'll just sit over here a little bit away. He's saying something about fentanyl, using the N-word like over and over. Then he says something about how everybody on this train is going to get effed in the butt by his big member. Except he didn't say member. I don't know. So I look over and I realize he's not alone. There's like a whole quadrant of Motley Crue people with him. One guy was wearing like a denim face mask. I didn't understand. So I turned back to my book, and then I hear the conductor come on the intercom and be like, if there's any law enforcement on the train, please come to car 1235. There is a passenger smoking on the train. He pretty much said this at every stop because guess what? There's no police at any of the stops. So I'm just laughing. The crazy people are like, I'm not smoking, I'm puffing. Now here's what happened when I made a jaunt down to the new CVS. Shit just went down in the CVS. So I went there to get tissue and castor oil that I couldn't find at Walgreens. As usual, I'm wandering through the aisles, confused again by why there's so much stuff behind glass. Are people really stealing deodorant? I mean, I guess it is kind of expensive. I walked by the sex toys. They're behind glass. I was like, that makes sense. They weren't behind glass last time. And so I'm trying to find the castor oil with one of these workers. And all of a sudden, I hear the other worker go, sir, you can't steal that. You can't steal that. And this man comes barreling down the aisle with a stroller filled with things that he stole. He had like those Downy crystals. They fell out of the stroller, so they were able to capture those. He had a tub of Kool-Aid. I mean, the workers tried to like stop him. The manager was like, don't touch him. It was a lot. I was like, now I know why everything's behind glass. Now I have to print my first retraction. Some of you might remember from my Viva Colombia episode how I said that Allie was the one who found our deluxe accommodations, but we went back and looked at the receipts, and it turns out Ray was actually the one who found the Airbnb. So it's Ray to the rescue, as per usual, and I'm just confused, as per usual. Finally, here's my latest moment with Mommy. I'm talking on the phone with her and telling her I had this dream where she's criticizing my underwear. And she's like, that's funny. It probably means you need new underwear. I'll be spending Thanksgiving week with Mommy, so I'm sure more antics will ensue. So come back next time for more. Bye.